Hello everyone, my name is Sarah Mann, and today I'm going to be presenting on how self-esteem mediates the relationship between parental validation and depression. Our population was Chinese college students, and this research was led by Eileen Lee and overseen by Dr. David Moore and Dr. Marcus Rodriguez in collaboration with the Pitzer Global Mental Health Lab and the Youth and Family Institute. We conducted a series of mediation analyses on the relationship between parental validation, self-esteem, self-compassion, and depression. Our most notable result was full mediation for parental invalidation and depression through self-esteem. There's a large body of research on the impact of parental invalidation, as well as several theories about how it relates to emotion regulation. Marcia Linehan proposed the biosocial model of emotion dysregulation, in which an invalidating environment, especially parents, can help contribute to the emotion dysregulation seen in BPD. Additionally, parental criticism is positively associated with depression, anxiety, shame, sadness, emotion dysregulation, and non-suicidal self-injury. Furthermore, internal self-criticism can predict depression. Self-esteem and depression are also significantly connected, with lower self-esteem being strongly correlated to higher levels of depression. Higher self-esteem also serves as a protective factor against developing depression in the face of stressful life events. With this research, we were interested in inspecting the relationship between parental validation, self-esteem, and depression. Our study recruited 46 students from 2 universities in China. Participants were placed in 2 groups, a control group with a 20-minute cognitive exercise podcast and a self-compassion intervention group with a 20-minute self-compassion podcast. Our data is going to be focusing mostly on pre-intervention data that we drew from the pre-intervention survey and ecological momentary assessment questionnaires that were sent 4 times randomly throughout the day for 7 days prior to the intervention in order to assess baseline levels from days 1 through 7. Additionally, we administered a post-intervention survey. The surveys included demographic information, the self-compassion scale, perceived stress scale, generalized anxiety disorder 7, 5-facet mindfulness questionnaire, patient health questionnaire 9, Rosenberg self-esteem scale, and compassion scale, in order to look at overall self-compassion, stress, anxiety, mindfulness, depression, self-esteem, and compassion for others. The podcasts were originally in English and were translated into Chinese and recorded, and were originally from Dr. Christian Neff's website. Full mediation was found for parental invalidation and depression through self-esteem. When accounting for the mediating role of self-esteem, the direct effect from negative parental validation and depression was not significant, indicating full mediation. Partial mediation was found for positive parental validation and depression through self-esteem. When accounting for the mediating role of self-esteem, the direct effect from positive parental validation and child depression remained significant, indicating partial mediation. Looking at Figure 1, we can see that parental invalidation and depression have a highly significant relationship with a p-value of less than 0.001 and a positive relationship. Parental invalidation and self-esteem also have a highly significant negative relationship. So the more parents invalidate their children, the lower self-esteem children are going to have. Self-esteem and depression, again, have a highly significant negative relationship. So the lower a child's self-esteem is, the higher levels of depression they're going to have. When factoring in for the mediating role of self-esteem, we see that the direct effect is not significant. So it goes from being highly significant to not significant at all, indicating full mediation. The more parents invalidate their children, the more depressed their children are. This is because when parents invalidate their children, they tend to lower their children's self-esteem, which leads to more depression. We also found interesting results for self-compassion's mediating role, though it was only partial mediation. However, it's not all bad news. We also found partial mediation for positive parental validation, self-esteem, and depression. Specifically, positive parental validation served as a protective factor in the development of depression. Here we can see that positive parental validation and depression have a significant relationship with a p-value of less than 0.01 that is negative. So the more parents validate their children, lower level is associated with lower levels of depression. Likewise, parental validation and self-esteem have a significant positive relationship. So parental validation is associated with higher levels of self-esteem. Self-esteem and depression, as we saw in Figure 2, has a highly significant negative relationship. When factoring in for the mediating role of self-esteem, we see that the direct effect is still significant, but it lost a total of a decimal point of significant from the total effect. This indicates partial mediation. The more positively validating parents are, the less depressed their children are. This is partially because children with positively validating parents tend to have higher self-esteem, which leads to decreased depression. In conclusion, parental interaction can help determine vulnerability to depression. Children with validating parents have higher self-esteem, which serves as a protective factor against depression. Children with invalidating parents tend to have lower self-esteem and are more vulnerable to depression. This highlights the importance of teaching parents how to interact with their children in a validating manner. It also shows the importance of creating interventions that can increase parental validation and target children's self-esteem. And because self-esteem as a construct can be difficult to change, it would be worthwhile for future studies to look at self-compassion. Other future directions include looking at the impact of other validating adult presences in the lives of children, such as teachers, coaches, neighbors, or other family members, as well as validating friendships or sibling relationships. Additionally, applying our study to other demographics and ages would be very useful. Thank you so much for your time. If you're interested in learning more, we would love to connect with you. And here's our contact information. And if you're interested in learning more about the research that we use as background, here are our references. Thank you very much.